Today we're going over some footwork that you should know if you're getting into boxing. Okay, so today we're going over what I refer to as accessory footwork. So usually when we're doing our footwork, you should be focusing on fundamentals. That's always that lead and follow with your feet, opening and closing, keeping your heels apart and never crossing. As opposed to what we're going to be working on today with accessory footwork, we're actually going to be doing all of our footwork with our lead foot first. So if I'm working with Yazzie here, the first one that we're going to do is off of her jab. And the way that it's going to work, she throws her jab at me, and when she does, that punch is fully extended out. I'm going to take a little step with my lead foot to the outside of hers as I'm doing my slip. This is going to give me the opportunity to pivot and face into the side of her body afterwards, right? Opposed to what we usually do with our slipping, right? We're kind of just crunching from our core and bringing our head just to the outside. That's a great way to set up your counters if you're gonna be immediately punching back after you do your slip, but it doesn't really give you an angle. With all of these footworks today, we're gonna be trying to get angles off of our opponent's punches. So again, when she's throwing that jab at me, I take a little step to the outside, just as close as I can possibly be to the outside of her foot. And now when I pivot, I'm looking at the side of my opponent back in the exact same stance again. Perfectly safe from getting hit from her, and it's a very, very dangerous position for her to be in. So again, she jabs, 1, 2. You have to make sure you slip with the motion and you don't stand up straight when you do that. And that's going to be across the board for all of the footwork that we're going to be going over today. Where you got to move that upper body with the step so you get that flow going, right? You get that momentum started and you don't feel all stiff and upright like this. So I slip, boom, with that step, and now my pivot is just so much smoother afterwards. So when she throws that cross at me, I take a little step with my lead foot just to the outside of her, again, slipping into this position, not leaning over. I'm taking a step, I'm crunching through my core, and now from here, I again pivot. So I'm looking at the side of my opponent's body. So again, she throws that cross, I go 1, 2. Looking at the side of her, trying to get a 90-degree angle as best as we can. Again, one more time, she crosses, 1, 2. Right, really, really simple if you can get this one down. So as I'm doing that slip, I put all of my weight, most of my weight, onto my lead foot, makes my back foot really light so it wants to swing as I turn my body back through. So again, not upright like this. All right, really easy to get hit in that context, right? I want to bring my body to my lead side, and now when I spin on that lead foot, it feels so much more natural. You got to move the upper body, and I can't stress that enough. Okay, so those are the first two. Next one, when Yazzie's throwing her lead hook at me. So when the lead hook comes, almost the exact same as what we did on the jab, except I'm going to hinge a lot more. And I've seen in the comments before when I've shown this technique in other videos, right? Oh, that doesn't make any sense. There's no way that's going to work, right? You got to be so fast and the other guy has to be so slow for this to work. I'm telling you, a lot of boxers get this done. It's not usually on just them throwing sort of a snappy left hook. It's maybe in the context of a long, powerful combo coming at you. They're reaching with a lot of their strikes and they're trying to really hit you with that knockout punch. That's maybe where this would work, right? But in speaking to all of that, this is the hardest one. So when she throws the left hook at me, I want to hinge forward. So I'm actually taking a step and really bending my body to the side like this. 1. So what you can kind of imagine is your opponent's maybe stepping in with that lead hook. They're trying to close the distance, and it makes this technique a lot more realistic and more likely to actually work. So when she throws that lead hook, I'm actually going to step to the outside of her lead foot and again try to be as close to her as possible. You can see how my lead foot is actually hooking onto hers and it's holding her in place for a moment. So now when I go for my pivot, I end up directly behind her. And there's no way that she can defend herself from that position. Obviously not a lot of legal strikes I can throw from there, but still some stuff we can land. So she throws that lead hook, boom, I hinge forward, dropping my weight into my legs, right? Even if we're kicking, she can't kick me here, she can't punch me here, there's nothing she can do from this position unless she was going into a spinning strike. And then I can follow up with all of my techniques. So one more time with flow. All right. I'm facing you guys, that hook's coming right at me, boom, goes right over top of my shoulders, right? My weight sort of evenly pressed between my feet, and now I turn. You can see it's a full 180. 1, hook goes over top of my shoulders, and now boom, right, I can pivot and face directly behind them. You got to be fast. Okay, I'm not going to say that you, all right, can do this very slowly. You have to do it timed perfectly with your opponent, really trying to hit you with that lead hook, and you got to be quick while you're doing it. So getting that footwork cleaned up is the most important part.
Helps to be short.
Helps to be short. If you're shorter, it's definitely easier. Okay, so the last one we're going to do is off of the right hook. So when Yazzy's throwing that right hook at me, I'm actually going to be stepping up and closing the distance to her. So this is the difference between a roll and a duck, right? A duck is where you sort of change your level and almost sink directly into your legs, right? The way that we're going to do it, we're actually going to duck and move backwards out the back, right? Opposed to a roll, it's a lateral movement like this, where I'm drawing a U with my nose, right? Duck into the legs, right? Roll, moving laterally, right, to the outsides of those hooks. All right, there's some similarities between the two when we do this technique. So when Yazzy's throwing her right hook at me, I'm actually going to step up and move inside of that punch. So you can see it's almost like she's going to put me into a headlock. I've gotten so close to her. I've stepped my lead foot up nice and close to her, and I'm actually going to turtle in, right, sticking my chin into my chest, and then go out the back. So when she's throwing this right hook at me, I'm actually going to be stepping up, bringing myself inside of that hook. So it's almost like she's about to put me into a headlock. I've gotten so close to her. I'm safe from getting hit by the punch, but I want to be able to escape this position because it's not really somewhere where either one of us wants to be fighting. I'm going to turtle, bringing my chin to my chest, and then step directly behind myself. I step in, 1, 2. All right. Again, opposed to a roll, which would look like this. You don't get as much of an angle, you don't close the distance, and technically it's not as safe as this one that we're doing here. You get nice and close, you're inside, and you can so quickly counter out of this position with some really, really great footwork and angles that you've created with this. Again, she right hooks, boom. All right. I need to be able to level change with my legs, turning and out the back, letting it go right over the back of my head. From the top with all of them, all right, she throws her jab at me, just to the outside of her. She throws her cross, again, stepping and pivoting. She throws her lead hook, all right, dip, right, level changing over top of my hips, really deep step, and then she throws her right hook. I duck, boom, out the back. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, little angle for you. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Cool, right? It's a lot of movement of your upper body, right? So keep that in mind, right? On that first slip, turning my shoulders that way, right? Turning back into my opponent. On my second one, the cross, stepping, turning my shoulders, pivoting on that foot to face. Right, again, that left hook, I step, I turn my shoulders over, I pivot, right, turn and face. And then on that right hook again, right, it's coming to the side of my head here, I turn away from it and out the back. But you can see all of these motions start with my upper body moving first. So me and Yazzie have 2 different tools here that we could use to practice these footworks that we just did. Obviously the cone, right, that's pretty easy and pretty intuitive for how you could work with it. You imagine like this is your opponent, you're trying to get 90 degrees on it each time. I'm stepping to the outside, pivoting and facing. I'm moving the other way, boom, pivoting and facing. I'm taking that 180 all the way around and turning back into it, or doing that duck, right? Imagining that right hook coming from the side and out the back. But it just gives you something to work around, because more or less with these techniques, the most important part is the foot placement of your lead foot. If that's off, then the rest of the technique's going to be kind of screwed up. Or even better, right, this guy, right? It gives you some really clear angles to work on. And if you have a partner, what they can do is they can stand with their lead foot inside of it. And again, gives you just a really clear look, right? Like an objective look of where the angles of my footwork should be. If I want to be moving to the right here, I can step, right, or rather to her right. I want to step with my lead foot just to the outside of the octagon and then turn back into her. All right, and then same thing the other way. Step, turn. All right, and she can turn facing again, the 180, step all the way past the octagon and turn back into her, right? Or that right hook. She right hooks me, right? I'm really imagining myself working around this thing. Well, maybe not imagining, right? But thinking about either a partner standing in it, or better yet, if you have a partner, get them to stand there, lead foot inside of it, and it just gives you a really nice look of where you should be moving. So that's our video on accessory footwork, all those fancy pivots that really make you look like a boxer. If you want to join our team, you can check us out at Rideout MMA pretty much everywhere. You can follow us on Instagram, obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel, that helps out a lot, and you know, it's cool to get supported like that, and we have lots of cool content on there that you can come and check out. Anyways, I'm Connor, this is
Yes.
and we'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.